Hi guys, welcome to the second part of my tutorial for the Roses and Laces mini album. As I mentioned in the first video, I added a little glossy accents to some of the details on the cover. And now it's time to make the first page. And it's gonna be inside the cover. I am gonna use sheet number 1 from the collection. And this is what it looks like, and this is what it looks like on the back. First, I am gonna cut it in half at 6 inches, and then I'm gonna cut it in half again at 6 inches and use the top part on the right. So let me just move this and get out my paper cutter. Boopty. So I am just gonna cut off this glue on the edge. I don't know why I didn't just do it on all of the sheets before I started, but anyway, just remember to do it before you cut the sheet into pieces. So now I am laying it at 6 inches and cutting it in half. And we're gonna save the left part for later and use the right part. I am just turning it and again cutting it in half at 6 inches. And this is the top part that we're gonna use, and the other part we're gonna save for later. Now I am getting my ruler and my knife and a pencil, and I'm just gonna pause this while I explain what I'm doing. I'm gonna draw 5 lines that I am going to cut, and I'm doing it on the back side of the paper so there's no pencil marks. And I turned the paper so the bottom is actually the top. I'm gonna cut 1/8 of an inch from the edge on both sides. And the first line is gonna be 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. The second line is gonna be 5/8 of an inch. And the next one is gonna be 1 1/8 of an inch. The next one is at 1 5/8 of an inch. And the last one is gonna be at 2 1/8 of an inch. I hope you can see where I'm going with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I drew them on before I cut them just to make sure that the lines are straight and that it looks okay. So now I'm going to cut again 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And I'm sorry about my big head being in the frame, but it was a little hard to see what I was doing. I'm making sure that my lines are as straight as possible, because if they're not, then my waterfall is going to be a little crooked. Be careful with the last one, it's really thin. And this is what it looks like now. The next thing I am gonna make is the flaps for the waterfall. I'm gonna cut 5 pieces of cardstock into 5 3/4 of an inch by 4 1/4 of an inch. Now, as you can see, I am cutting mine a little too big, but I did end up cutting off 1/4 of an inch. So don't do what I'm doing, just do what I say. Now I'm gonna score all of the pieces at 3 3/4 of an inch. Again, don't do what you see me doing. Just do as I say and then it will be okay. Now I have all my pieces for the waterfall, so I'm gonna start folding them up. And this is where I love the media mat so much, because I can use the measurements on the mat while I am folding to make sure that they're all gonna be exactly the same size. Now before I put these in, I am just gonna ink the edges around my waterfall base. I don't know, this piece. Now that that's done, I am gonna put in all of these pieces. If they are really hard to get in or if they're too tight, you could always cut a little bit more. But just be careful so that you don't tear your paper. But if you do, then just add some squirt tape on the back and piece it back together. Nobody's gonna know. I did just that because I ended up tearing mine, but you can't see it at all, so it's okay. So I got all my pieces in, and now I am just pulling them a bit from the backside to make sure that they are in all the way and checking if they're all straight. Then I'm just flipping through them all to make sure that they are flippable before I glue them down. And then I'm just gonna flip through them again just to make sure they're still straight while I am pressing down on the glue. I'm also gonna go in with my bone folder, and right about here is where I tore mine. So here you see me taping it back together. The next thing I'm gonna do is cut out some parts from sheet number 4 of the collection. I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna use these two. I am just gonna go in with my scissors, and then I am gonna use this piece for the top of the waterfall, and I am gonna use these two for the magnet closure. I'm gonna use this strip as a closure, and I wanted to go from the middle of the top piece and then go under the whole page. So I'm just gonna start with a strip of white cardstock, and I am gonna cut it at 5 inches long, and then at 1 3/8 of an inch wide. I'm also gonna cut my pretty paper strip at about 5 inches, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it because you won't be able to see the ends when I am done. And I am cutting 2 of these pieces so I can cover both sides of the cardstock. And then I'm just taking off the excess part from the cutout sheet. Chop chop. And then I am gonna cut these out. I'm using a circle die, but of course if you don't have one, you could just use your scissors. And this piece is also gonna cut down. I am gonna start with the brown frame around the image, and it hurts a little to cut this off because it's pretty, but if I don't do it, it's not gonna fit. And I'm just gonna cut off a tiny bit more, but it should end up being 5.5 by 3.5. Like so. And now that it fits, I'm gonna ink the edges of all pieces. And I'm just speeding through this because it takes forever and it's a little boring. And now I'm making the strap that's gonna hold down the waterfall. I'm gluing down the strip that I cut out before on the cardstock. Like so. And pressing it down. And then I am gonna add the other piece to the other side. And then burnishing again. So now I am gonna score the strap. In the middle of the first piece in the waterfall was about 4 inches in, so I'm gonna score at 4 inches. And again right next to it at 4 1/8 of an inch. And of course it's a little hard to score through because there are 3 layers of papers. And I am carefully bending it and making sure that I am not making any wrinkles or tearing the paper on the other side. And this is where the piece is gonna be. So I'm gonna put some squirt tape on the end that's gonna be in the back. And before I glue it down, I am gonna measure to make sure that it's right in the middle. Struggling a bit with this piece. Then I'm gonna add a little glue. And press it down. And before I burnish again, I just want to make sure that it's also right in the middle on the front. And I think it looks pretty good, so I'm gonna go in with my bone folder. Just removing all of these. And then I'm gonna make the magnet closure. And I think I want to use the brown one on the top. So I'm gonna glue it down on some white cardstock. And then cut around it and leaving some of the white going in with my cloth. And cut. I've always thought that circles were the hardest thing to cut with scissors. Now it's time to glue it onto the strap. Just want to see what it's gonna look like before I do it. Now I'm only adding glue to the part of the strap that I know is going to be covered. I could always add some more glue, but it's a little hard to wipe off when it's already there. And I am wiping off the excess and finding my magnets. And I am just letting one of the magnets hold the other magnet through the closure. So it's not gonna move around. And also so I can see where exactly it's gonna be before I add glue or tape. Now I'm just putting a little piece of tape on top of the magnet. And then when I close this up, the magnet is gonna stick to the top of the waterfall. And when I'm sure that it's straight, I'm gonna press it down. And then I'm gonna take this magnet off and put it on top of the other. And then I'm gonna add a little piece of tape to that as well. Oh, I hate these pieces. But now I am gonna close it up and then it will stick to the closure. Just like that. And now I am gonna cover this magnet with the other piece. And I'm just adding my glue and pressing it down carefully. I am gonna go in with my cloth and wipe around the magnet and also take off any excess glue. And this can still close up. So now I'm gonna add the last piece to the top of the waterfall. And I now have the whole page turned around just so you guys don't glue it on upside down. And don't mind the weird noise in the background, that's just my baby. He can sometimes get a little aggressive with his bottle, but he is really easy. He almost never cries and he sleeps, I don't know, 18 to 20 hours a day. So I am definitely not complaining. I am now wiping away from the magnet, just so I don't push all of the air in underneath the paper around the magnet. And I'm making sure that it's glued down as much as possible without making any sharp edges around the magnet, because of course I don't want it to be too visible. But now the page is actually done, except for all of these blank ones. I am gonna add some strips later, but I am gonna wait until I can use some leftovers instead of cutting up my bigger pieces. I am now adding my square tape to glue down the page. I always prefer using half tape and half glue, because the tape you can get really close to the edge, but the glue is much easier and faster. It also makes it possible to move the page just a little bit if you don't get it just right the first time, where if you only use tape, then it's just stuck. You see how I can still move it just a little bit? As soon as it's right where I want it to be, I'm going in with my bone folder and furnishing and making sure that I get every spot. Remember to go in between all of the flaps as well. And now I'm done with the first page. And like I said before, I am gonna go in later and add some more details. I hope you liked this video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. This was part 2 of my tutorial. For the next part, I am gonna make the second page.